Welcome back to the channel. You know, one of the most common questions that I get is, how do I make my mushrooms? Well, first I start off by chopping up common wheat straw. I chop it up to try to get pieces that are on average 1 inch to 4 inches in length. I use a weed eater with a blade attachment to do this, so be very careful because it can be dangerous. Also, it's a good idea to wear a mask, which I am not doing here. Once I get the straw chopped up, I put the straw into pillowcases. Now this helps keep the straw together because eventually I'm going to soak the straw. I soak the straw to do what's called a cold water pasteurization, in which we're going to drastically change the pH level. To do this, we use hydrated lime, and you have to make sure you get the right kind. You're looking for the type with a really low magnesium count, like this. So basically, we use a couple of handfuls into a barrel roughly this size and soak our straw for at least 20 hours. We don't want to go longer than 20 hours, but 20 hours is a pretty good number. Now, once we have the straw soaking for about 20 hours, we're going to take it out and lay it out on a table to dry. I like to clean off the table as much as possible, but keep in mind that this is a homestead operation, not a commercial grow operation, so we don't do everything completely sterile. So I lay the straw out to dry. This I typically do for about an hour. I may leave it out. And the purpose here is just so that it's not sopping wet, but we certainly don't want too much exposure to happen. Now, once we lay the straw out for about an hour to dry, we start our procedure of packing the straw here into our bags. And what I do is I use about a 1 to 10 ratio of spawn to straw. And in this case, I'm doing it by hand, but you can also mix it all together and then put it into a bag. I know that I'm going to use this entire bag in this case because pink oyster mushrooms don't store, at least the spawn doesn't, in a refrigerator, so I'm just trying to use it all. At this point, we also poke holes into the bag once we get the bag fully stuffed. It's also a good idea to keep your hands clean, and I use alcohol to do this because I keep sticking my hands into the spawn to keep down on the contamination rate. After about a day in room temperature, around 70 degrees, you should start to see some growth, maybe a day or two. After a good 12 days, you're going to start to see pins coming from those holes that you punched in the bag. From there, you're off and running. You should be able to harvest your mushrooms in maybe a week. It depends on the level of humidity and the heat. These things like heat, so they don't like cold. They don't want to get below, let's say, 65 degrees or 67 degrees for any extended period of time. Once it's time to harvest, I pull the mushrooms. I separate the stem butts from the mushroom and cut them up so that they're easier to fry. I also save the stem butts because those can be used to make more spawn. From there, they go into the pan. They stay in the pan for about 20 minutes. We kind of stir them around, saute them around, and at the end, we like to add a little bit of butter, and that's pretty much it. From there, it's just enjoy.